Rick and Morty is supposed to be this crazy comedy show, right? But some episodes will absolutely crush your soul and make you question everything. Today, we're looking at the three most depressing, soul-crushing episodes that made fans ugly cry and realize this show is way darker than expected. Fair warning, we're diving into seriously heavy territory here. By number 1, you're gonna need tissues. Okay guys, so we're talking about one of the most heartbreaking episodes in all of Rick and Morty. This episode really shows us how broken Rick actually is inside, and honestly, it made me cry the first time I watched it. So basically, Rick, Morty, and Summer are just flying around in space when they get this distress signal from some alien ship. Rick being Rick, he wants to go loot it because why not, right? But when they get there, they find these aliens who are totally freaking out about their planet being taken over by something called a hive mind. Here's where it gets weird. This hive mind thing actually knows Rick. Turns out Rick used to date this entity called Unity, and yeah, it's as strange as it sounds. Unity can basically control every single person on an entire planet, making them all act like one big connected brain. When they go to Unity's planet, Summer gets really upset because she sees that Unity has taken away everyone's free will. Like, these people can't think for themselves anymore, they're all just puppets, basically. Summer tries to free some of them, but it doesn't work because Unity controls literally everyone. Meanwhile, Rick and Unity start partying together again, and man, they go hard. They're doing drugs, drinking, having crazy adventures, the whole 9 yards. There's even this other hive mind called Beta 7 that shows up trying to flirt with Unity, but Rick just makes fun of it. Poor Beta 7 just wanted to be friends. But here's where things start going really wrong. All that partying is making Unity lose control of the people on the planet. When that happens, the freed people immediately start fighting each other based on their differences, like literally having a race war. It's so messed up that Morty and Summer almost get killed just being in the wrong place. The really sad part is when Summer and Morty realize that Rick and Unity are terrible for each other. They're both so similar. They both turn other people into versions of themselves. Rick does it by being a bad influence, and Unity does it by literally controlling minds. They try to warn them, but Rick just sends them home through a portal because he doesn't want to hear it. Then comes the absolutely devastating part. When Rick goes to use the bathroom, Unity just leaves. Everyone on the planet disappears, and all that's left are goodbye notes. Unity writes this heartbreaking letter saying they can't be together because they're too similar and they bring out the worst in each other. Unity says Rick is even better at controlling people than a literal hive mind, but he can't control himself, and that makes him dangerous to everyone around him. The ending absolutely destroyed me. Rick comes home all depressed and defeated. His family confronts him about some alien he had locked up in the basement, but he just doesn't care anymore. He goes to his garage and builds this death ray thing. Then, and this is the worst part, he comforts this suffering creature before putting it out of its misery, and then he turns the ray on himself. The only reason Rick doesn't die is because he passes out drunk before the machine can kill him. The episode ends with him unconscious at his workstation, while Jerry is outside, happily doing yard work, completely oblivious to the fact that Rick almost committed suicide. This episode shows us that behind all of Rick's genius and swagger, he's just a broken, lonely person who pushes away everyone he cares about. It's honestly one of the most real and depressing things I've ever seen in an animated show. Rick may act like nothing matters, but deep down, he's suffering more than anyone.
Town across the river? Watch this.
Whoa! Whoa! That's not what I meant!
It's okay. It's okay. I evacuated.
All right, so if the Unity episode made you sad, this one is gonna absolutely wreck you. This episode is basically when Rick's whole world comes crashing down, and honestly, it's probably the most intense finale Rick and Morty has ever done. So it starts pretty normal. The family is eating breakfast, and Beth is nagging Jerry about getting a job again. Classic Jerry, right? Then this weird alien male thing shows up with an invitation to Bird Person's wedding. Yeah, Rick's bird friend is getting married to Tammy, that girl who dated Summer's friend. Rick immediately says no because he thinks weddings are just funerals with cake. Which is such a Rick thing to say. Then Jerry, being Jerry, accidentally gets sucked into the invitation thing and gets transported to the wedding planet. So now Rick has to go save him, and he brings the whole family along. When they get there, everyone's having a good time except Rick, who's just being grumpy in the corner. The wedding seems normal at first. Jerry's trying to make small talk with Tammy's parents, but failing miserably. Beth is asking Bird Person about Rick's past and learning some pretty dark stuff, and Morty's trying to get Rick to actually enjoy himself for once. Eventually, Morty convinces Rick to give a wedding speech, and Rick actually opens up a little bit and talks about love and being happy for his friends. But then everything goes to hell so fast. Right after the ceremony, Tammy drops the biggest bombshell ever. She's been a Galactic Federation spy this entire time. The whole wedding was basically a trap to catch all of Rick's criminal friends in one place. Federation agents start shooting up the wedding, and Bird Person, Rick's oldest and closest friend, gets shot multiple times right in front of Rick. The look on Rick's face when this happens is absolutely heartbreaking. You can see him watching his best friend die, and there's nothing he can do about it. Tammy tries to arrest Rick, but he's too smart for that. He rigs his portal gun to explode and take out a bunch of Federation agents, but now they're all stuck on this planet with nowhere to go. Squanchy, the cat guy, drinks some potion and turns into this huge warrior to help them escape. But you know he's probably gonna die too. Now here's where it gets really depressing.
I grabbed a space weapon!
That's a confetti gun, you fucking idiot!
Rick tells his family they can never go home because Earth will be the first place the Federation looks for him. They try to find a new planet to live on, but every option is terrible. There's one that's way too small, another where everything is on a cob, which freaks Rick out for some reason, and one with a sun that screams constantly. They end up on tiny Earth, which sucks. But the worst part is when they're hiding in this cave, and Rick overhears his family talking. Jerry wants to turn Rick in because he thinks Rick only cares about himself, but everyone else, Beth, Summer, and Morty, they all defend Rick, even though he's caused all this trouble. Beth even breaks down and says she's scared Rick will abandon her again, just like when she was a kid. This completely destroys Rick. He realizes that despite being a terrible person who's ruined their lives, his family still loves him and is willing to give up everything just to stay with him. So what does Rick do? He makes the ultimate sacrifice. He lies to Morty about going to get ice cream, but instead, he turns himself into the Federation to save his family. The episode ends with Rick in space prison saying he did everything when asked about his crimes, while his family gets sent back to Earth, which is now controlled by the Federation. Jerry's happy because he gets assigned a job, but everyone else looks miserable. This episode shows us that Rick actually does love his family, even if he's terrible at showing it. Him sacrificing his freedom to save them is probably the most selfless thing he's ever done, and it hits so much harder because of everything that led up to it.
I don't get the metaphor.
I'll explain it to you later.
Everyone here is under arrest for crimes against the Federation.
Tammy, what are you doing?
Sit your bird ass down.
Tammy? Bird Person! No!
If you thought those last two episodes were heartbreaking, this one is gonna absolutely destroy your soul. This episode is hands down the most depressing thing Rick and Morty has ever done, and honestly, it changed the entire show forever. So it starts out pretty innocent. Morty has a huge crush on Jessica, like every teenage boy does, and he wants to ask her to the school dance. But he's way too shy, and this jerk Brad keeps getting in his way. Morty goes to Jerry for advice, which is already a mistake because Jerry's romantic advice is basically how he accidentally got Beth pregnant in high school. Rick overhears this conversation and just goes off on Jerry. He tells Morty not to listen to Jerry because his marriage is basically falling apart, and then drops this bomb about how love isn't real. It's just chemicals in your brain that make you want to reproduce. Once that's done, all the love just disappears. Super cheerful stuff, right?
Come on, Rick, don't talk about my parents like that. Listen, Morty, I hate to break it to you, but what people call love is just a chemical reaction that compels animals to breed. It hits hard, Morty, then it slowly fades.
This makes Morty even more desperate, so he begs Rick for a love potion to make Jessica like him. Rick calls him a thorn in his ass, but gives him this serum made from vole DNA because voles mate for life. Rick says nothing can go wrong with it. Unless Jessica has the flu, and guess what? She totally has the flu. At the dance, Morty gives Jessica the love potion, and it works. She's all over him, which seems great until she starts sneezing. The love potion mixes with the flu virus and becomes airborne, which means everyone who breathes it in falls in love with Morty. And I mean everyone. Students, teachers, Brad, literally everybody at the school. It gets super uncomfortable real quick because they're all trying to get physical with Morty right there in front of everyone. He's just a kid, and suddenly every person at his school wants to jump his bones. It's honestly pretty disturbing when you think about it. Rick shows up and tries to fix it with an antidote made from praying mantis DNA, but that just makes everything worse. Now, everyone still loves Morty, but they also want to eat his head off after mating with him, just like mantises do. And this virus spreads to the entire planet. Meanwhile, Jerry thinks Beth is cheating on him, so he fights through hordes of mantis people to get to her hospital. When he finds her, some doctor is trying to make moves on her, so Jerry literally beats the guy to death with a crowbar. It's actually kind of badass, but also really dark. Rick tries to fix the mantis problem with a third serum, but Morty gets impatient and releases it himself. This turns everyone into these horrifying blob monsters that Rick calls Cronenbergs. The entire world is now overrun with these nightmare creatures, and it's basically the apocalypse. But here's where it gets really messed up. Rick's solution. He just abandons this reality completely. He finds a dimension where another Rick and Morty fixed the problem, but then died in an explosion, so they just replace them. They literally take over the lives of their dead selves. The most devastating part is when Morty has to help Rick bury their own corpses in the backyard. Can you imagine having to bury yourself? Morty just sits there afterwards with this 1,000-yard stare, completely traumatized. He's basically abandoned his real family forever, and they don't even know it. The after-credit scene makes it even worse. We see that the original Smith family, Jerry, Beth, and Summer, are actually doing fine without Rick and Morty. They're living in this armored van, roasting Cronenberg meat, and they admit they don't miss Rick and Morty at all. In fact, they're happier than they've ever been. This episode is devastating because it shows that Rick's solutions often create more problems, and when things get too bad, he just runs away to a new reality instead of fixing his mistakes. Poor Morty has to live with the knowledge that he destroyed his entire world and abandoned his real family, who are actually better off without him. It's existential horror at its finest.
Turns, and... Alright, Morty, here we are. Oh my god, Rick! Is that us? We're dead!
So those are the 3 episodes that destroyed every Rick and Morty fan. They show us Rick isn't just a genius. He's this broken person who hurts everyone around him. These episodes proved the show is way more emotionally complex than people think. Which one hit you hardest? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for sticking through all this emotional damage with me.